Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Kennedy, and on behalf of the Office of Alumni Engagement and the McMaster Continuing Education, I'd like to thank you for joining us on this very beautiful evening, or so it is here in Hamilton, for our first Caregiving Essentials webinar of the 2025-26 series. Tonight, we're talking about breaking through red tape to innovate for caregivers. Before I begin our speakers for this evening, Donna Thompson and Dr. Adriana Shnall, I'd like to acknowledge that the land on which this webinar is taking place, I'm here in my office at McMaster, we recognize and acknowledge that it is located on the traditional territories of the Mississauga and Haudenosaunee nations and within the lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. So, let's get to our speakers. As always, our host for this evening is Donna Thompson. Donna is a caregiver, author, and educator. She's the author of 2 best-selling books on caregiving, including The Unexpected Journey of Caring. Donna also facilitates our free online courses for caregivers, Caregiving Essentials, and she's also the co-designer of creating caregiver-friendly workspaces and the co-designer and co-instructor of the Family Engagement and Research course, all of which are here at McMaster. And joining Donna this evening is Dr. Adriana Shnall. She is a social worker with a PhD, and currently she serves as the program director of the Koschitzky Centre for Innovation in Caregiving at Baycrest, very famous place in Toronto. And of course, she is drawing from 30 years of clinical expertise in older adult and family care across various settings. She's been recognized with the Baycrest Outstanding Innovation Award. So, she is perfect to talk about our subject tonight. And she holds an assistant professor role at the University of Toronto, just down the street from McMaster. Balancing clinical practice, education, research, and leadership, she integrates her skills to empower family caregivers, healthcare providers, and the public, fostering an improved quality of life for both caregivers and the individuals they support. Adriana, thank you so much for joining us this evening. And Donna, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Christine, and welcome, Adriana. This is so exciting. This is our inaugural webinar for this academic year, and it's a very special occasion. It's the only one we have that's in the evening, and it's a bit of a celebration. And I'm so pleased we're going to be talking about innovation, because innovation in family caregiving is a very hopeful topic. And before I ask you any specific questions about projects, innovations that you are working on or have developed at the Koschitzky Centre, maybe you can tell us, Adriana, how did you become interested in caregiving and in innovation?
So thanks for the question, and thanks so much for inviting me to be here today, because it's a true honor. I'm very excited, even though it's a beautiful night. This is so dear to my heart, this topic. So thank you. I was very young. I had done my master's in social work, and I worked in acute care in Toronto. And then I went to Baycrest and I worked in the memory clinic. And it became very evident to me that people were coming mostly for medical treatment and intervention and diagnostics. And there was no cure then. This was 1990, and there's no cure today for dementia, for example. But what I realized is that the bulk of the work and where we could make an impact was supporting those families that were looking after people with dementia. And it became very clear to me that that was a really important role. And so I had a lot of, I was doing, this was my bread and butter, families living with dementia and the struggles they were going through. And in those days, we didn't have many models of care. We were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And whether they were younger people with dementia or older people with dementia, everybody kind of got counseling. And as the years went on, it became so clear to me that what now we know and understand, that different caregivers need different things at different parts of the trajectory, and depending on age, depending on the circumstances, the stage of the condition they're dealing with, their partners, socioeconomic status, culture. I mean, there's just so many variables to that equation that we cannot use a cookie cutter approach. to the way we were in helping people. And so I decided to go back to do my doctorate to learn more about caregiving, to kind of have times dedicated to looking at what's being done out there. What are new ways that we know there's evidence that it works? And, I don't get hung up on the evidence-based stuff. I mean, so much for me, sometimes what works for some people doesn't work for other people. And it's for the clinicians to understand when you use one intervention versus another intervention. And so, but it became very clear that whatever that we were doing, not just clinically, but as a society, we were missing the mark, because caregivers were getting more and more overwhelmed. The resources and supports weren't increasing necessarily. And over the years, we've been trying to do more with less, basically. I can say that in previous years, we had more resources in many ways, and now it seems that we don't. However, we now know better. You know what a big difference is? Something we didn't talk about before is we involve family caregivers at every level of any ideas that we have. And actually, we ask families to give us ideas. What are the problems you're facing? When I started in my career, it was more like, we know what's best.
Yeah.
We will tell you, we will do for you. And the thinking has changed so much. Thank God it's changed so much. So in my years, over 40 years in my career, I've seen such changes, and a lot of it is through innovations, trying different things. The thing about innovation is it's kind of, sometimes you fail. You try new things and they don't work. But if you don't try, you don't know what's going to work and not work. So you have to have a mindset. And what's changed now is this understanding that we're going to try things, and some of them will work and some won't work quite so well. But we're in this trying to better the lives of caregivers. And I'm personally a caregiver myself. When I started in this business, I wasn't, because just being a mother is not, don't consider that being a caregiver. That's just, I'm a mother. A caregiver, we talk more about people that are looking after somebody with a disability, end of life issues, and illness, per se. So I can talk forever about this topic, but so it wasn't a linear way. But throughout my process of getting to this point has been this idea of things are not so great for caregivers. How do we improve life for caregivers?
And, Adriana, I love that you talked about everyone's situation being different, but everyone identifies what is helpful differently in the way of support too. Some people cannot stand to have a personal support worker in their home. How are they going to get support? I mean, that requires innovation and thinking outside the box and doing a deep dive, helping a person reflect on what could be helpful. If the usual offer from the province or the country is not helpful for you, what could be helpful? And you are really tackling this problem or this challenge of personalizing support and helping people figure out what could be helpful for me, given my givens, and given my preferences and choices and realities, and how could I get that helpful thing that I could imagine with your help. So can you tell us some of the innovation, a couple of projects that you've created at the Koschitzky Centre at Baycrest, and tell us what they are and how they work?
So I'll show you a variety of few different things so that you get a flavor of the variety. So it's not all technology based. Our aim is, how do we support the variety of caregivers that we see and do something that's meaningful for them. And let me just screen share very quickly, mostly for it helps me. Let me just, sorry. Okay, this is just a slide that I put together with different projects, and I just want to show you, just so that you could see the variety of needs that people have and different ways of supporting people. So I'll put, this was an older one, see the one with the couple spinning on the bikes. We did some work around people with younger onset dementias and their partners, because we know that physical activity is so important for people with dementia and their partners, and socialization and getting out. And it was just a group where people did spinning. There was music appropriate to their age group. So Beatles was Rolling Stones. There was a social worker also to support at the end of it, where there's coffee and cookies. And it was an opportunity to do normal activities for couples that felt that they didn't belong anywhere because they were in their 50s, and what could they do? And this proved to be really helpful. And I'm highlighting this just as an example that not everything has to be high tech and really innovate. By innovation, it means so many things. I don't want you to think that some of the other projects we've done, like virtual reality, that sounds so high techy and more innovative. But I don't like anybody to think that virtual reality or AI is any more innovative than doing an exercise program with socialization and good music and having fun. Mm-hmm. I want you to think of all of these different things as innovations. So we're doing a virtual reality training. We're involved through the Toronto Dementia Research Alliance. There's different hospitals, Ontario Shores, Mount Sinai, CAMH, working on this because we're trying, the big problem we have in healthcare is that to help people, we need some people that are trained in helping people. And we have less and less healthcare professionals, people entering the workforce. So in the face that we just don't have nurses and OTs and social workers as available as we once did, can we start creating different ways of educating family caregivers? Maybe it will work with some younger people in next generations. I'm not sure that it's going to resonate with an 85-year-old person, but we don't know yet. But if we don't try, we won't know either. So we need to move along the technology that's available. We've also done a lot of, well over 40 webinars related to caregiving. We're doing a project now at Baycrest to train caregivers, healthcare professionals and family caregivers on working with behavioral or responsive behaviors in dementia, where the AI, the chatbot, is interactive so that you could learn the function of behaviors. People could be taught in a different way. And I don't want to use the word innovative, but it's a different modality of teaching. And we're trialing it because you can really customize these chatbots through AI for different situations, different languages, different cultures. And again, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's amazing that it can work in different languages and different cultures. But I wanted to ask you, Adriana, if you could give us just a very brief example. Say someone in your care with dementia does not want to take a shower or bathe, and they're refusing a bath. How would this chatbot, what would it say? How does this work in real time? Could you give an example?
Yes. So that's one of the scenarios, typical scenarios that people have. So it's understanding the functions. So for example, sometimes somebody is resistant to a shower, right? Mm-hmm. First of all, the chatbot through questions will guide you to understand the problem. So at Baycrest, for example, having a history of trauma. So I'm just going to use examples from Baycrest, not from this chatbot. We have a large population of Holocaust survivors where their families were gassed in chambers. And for them, the thought of a shower is that's where you went to die.
Oh, yeah.
And when people have dementia, they go back to people that have suffered trauma to those times. And the problem is that they don't realize that it's not happening, that they're safe now. So it teaches people to look at why could there be other reasons? Maybe it's not just teaching people how to ask different questions, but understand the function of the behaviors. If I'm being resistive, is understanding that maybe I'm being resistive for the shower, but not for a bath. So this chatbot is not around training people around different behaviors. The virtual reality project is around bathing and ways you have a clinician that appears that helps you understand, could you try asking it this way? Or could you try perhaps walking away and coming back in 15 minutes? Because one of the bad things about having dementia is that you forget, but one of the good things is that you forget. So for the caring, so that's more the virtual reality project we have. The AI is more around understanding function. But because caregivers, part of the stress is caregivers are thrown into these situations without knowing how to manage these conditions. And that could go from changing a catheter to dealing with behaviors to giving injections. And there's no training. And even with catheters or injections, there's more training. You generally have a nurse that can show you. But with behaviors, there's so many different ones that you need to learn. It's more complex to learn the skill set to deal with somebody who is screaming or yelling or resistant to care or wants to go out all the time. So we're trying these technologies really to see, are these ways to make it so that people could do it from home, especially people in rural areas that can't come to a class. The virtual reality project comes out of a project at Mount Sinai Hospital, the Carers program, where they have actors and role play. Well, not everybody can get to downtown Toronto, University Street and Park for $40 a day in Toronto to take these amazing courses. And who knows how much money there's left to have paid actors to do this role playing. So we need innovation. Of course, we all wish there was so much money in the system that we could do one-on-one and but so by trialing different techniques, we can hopefully then match the right technique for the right person. Because VR is not for everybody, AI is not for everybody, spinning is not for everybody, webinars is not for everybody. Then we have these online learning modules, short around learning about caregiving, not for everybody. So if we have a basket of different things, there's more of a chance that caregivers can avail themselves of the right supports for that particular time. So, for example, this one that I'm pointing to, we have a Young Carers project. So this is to support people between the ages of 20 and 30 who are caregivers of people with dementia, generally their parents with younger onset dementias or grandparents. And so supports for them, because we also found this is a group that falls through the cracks, really, of the system. Like there's some supports for children, there's supports for middle age or adults, but 20 to 30 is a very vulnerable time. It's when people, I call them kids, but they're not kids, are being launched, starting their lives, their careers, relationships. And a lot of them are stuck. And they either by choice or not choice, whatever their circumstances, but they're in a situation that their lives, their paths are looking very different. And so how do we support this age group? Again, this is when I said different caregivers need different things. This is based on age. Somebody who's 85's needs are very different than somebody who's 25. So this is part of what we talk about, personalizing supports. But what I'd like to focus, we just developed, CCAN just briefly, this is another that I want to point out, is a tool for caregivers at the point of transitions to long-term care, or I use the word institutional care. I know a lot of people don't like it. I just don't want to call it transition to home, because it's not home wherever people are going. A retirement home, a hospital, whatever that may be. We forget about families. We meaning the healthcare system and society, thinks you're done your work, you've looked after your person, off you go partying, because the person, your relative, is not going to be looked after by us.
I know, Adriana, that many people listening today are probably caring for someone in long-term care or assisted living or a seniors residence that's supposed to be for autonomous seniors or group homes, whatever. And we all know, speaking as someone whose adult son resides in a medical group home, we know how much work it is. It's the work of love and care and oversight and accountability and checking in and advocating, assisting, your person to advocate for their choices and for the best care that they can possibly get wherever they are. It continues. Care continues until either we die or the person we're caring for dies. That's it, because of love and necessity, which are the two primary ingredients in caregiving. So thank you for doing this transitional care for families piece, because I speaking personally, when our son moved out of our home, I was very, very, very privileged that I was able to move in with him, simply because it was a brand new place and they didn't have occupants in most of the rooms. So I couldn't, I mean, the idea that I could just say goodbye to someone I'd been caring for 23 years, 24/7 awake nursing care. Uh, First of all, I could not trust other people at the beginning to keep him alive. So I think that the needs of caregiving with respect to support, but also information sharing, it does our hearts good and gives us the kind of reassurance that we need to be able to share what we know with those people who are going to be taking over physical care for somebody we love who is very vulnerable. And tell us more about this transitional care tool and how it supports caregivers.
So this tool, and I'm hoping the links will go after to people with the recordings, and you'll get the links to it.
Yes.
So this tool is for people to self-assess and see areas where they may need support or they're struggling. And most long-term care facilities or retirement homes or group homes have social workers, but not in rural areas or smaller towns. So our hope is that we'll link that to our C card, which I will explain, another customizable tool for supports. But it's what caregivers told us that it was good doing it, even to learn about some of the things, to normalize some of the feelings that we're experiencing, because it's very normal to experience guilt and feeling out of control and overwhelm. And how do you trust these people with your person? And the fact that it's there in front of you in a form of a questionnaire means that other people must be experiencing this, or you wouldn't be asked about this,
Mhm.
right? It talks about barriers like transportation. What are some of the things that make it more difficult to visit? What are some of the concerns? So you can find it online on our website. And we're hoping to launch it to, when I explain C-card, just to, the tool helps you understand your needs, but then so what? If you're lucky to be in a place where there's supports, then you can say, these are some of the things I'm experiencing. But a lot of people are not that lucky. So then they still need to be able to figure out, so what? So now that I need what I know what I need.
Yeah.
Dawn, I wanted to say something.
Yes.
Sorry, because I always try, when you talk about your son and you talk about your loved one, and I think the parent-child relationship is different in caregiving, and I can't even begin to know or think what it would be like to have to be the caregiver to your child that has an illness or disability. Sometimes when we look after parents, spouses, siblings, even though there are relatives, it's not a relationship, but there's love. And so I don't want caregivers to ever feel that when we use the word loved one, that you necessarily love the person.
No, that's
And
true.
it's very judgmental. And so people get caught up with this. Oh my God, you had an abusive parent.
Yep.
You're doing this out of duty.
Yep.
It's harder caregiving for somebody where the relationship was more of an ambivalent relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot harder because it's not love the same way. So I just want to insert this. It's off topic a little bit, but I just want to make sure that people don't feel that you must love the person you care for.
No, that's a really, really important point. And I know, so many caregivers who uh, are in a situation where they're caring for an ex-spouse, or or they were on the brink of divorce when a stroke occurred,
Yeah,
or something like that, where caught in a trap of
yeah,
obligation.
yeah,
Um, so, as many individuals as we are with all our characteristics and who we are, that's the same number of caregiving realities that we have in the human race. Um, but I wanted to ask you, and I want to just put it out there so that we can revisit it after and people can be mulling over this question as you described C-cart, which
yeah.
you're going to do in a minute. But before, in one of you and I chatted before tonight, and we talked about um, barriers to innovation where people are very comfortable with the way things have always been done. And so I would love for you to be able to reflect as we're moving through this conversation on how do you persuade all parties to buy in to innovation generally? Because you told us just 25 minutes ago, right before our webinar, a story of something that happened in your classroom at U of T. Can you tell us what that was?
Sure. So we were chatting before the webinar started, and I'm so immersed in innovation, and I'm very lucky to work at Baycrest in that they've allowed me. I've been there over 34 years. They've allowed me to try so many different things, and some haven't worked, and some worked. And the only way forward is to try new things. I mean, you make educated guesses and discoveries and developments. You do it always with families or whoever your end user is, but in this case, family caregivers, with their input throughout to make sure you don't miss the mark. But not everybody thinks of innovation as a good thing. And I teach at U of T, and we were having this discussion, and I'm not saying that not an innovation, maybe that's not the right technology.
Okay,
the use of
technology.
technology. And I think we need to also be careful not to mix innovation with technology, because technology is one tool to help innovation, but is not that innovation. It's a tool we use to innovate. And so we were having this discussion about AI and robots, social robots was the
Right.
discussion.
Oh, yeah.
And why should we be using social robots? Well, I'm going to tell you that I've seen a lot of people where it works really well for medication management and reminders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, medication, people that can't manage their medications, it's one of the number one reasons why people are going to long-term care. Because in Ontario, at least, we don't have a service that comes in the morning and helps you with pills, and then at night to help you with pills. Those people, unless they have families or somebody that arranges it for them or remind them, they need to go to long-term care. So I've seen conversation, social isolation for some people. I mean, of course, having a friend, a social worker, a neighbor is ideal, but it's not possible for everybody. So what do we do with when somebody doesn't have anybody else, or even if you have somebody else? No daughter, friend, or partner can be with you all the time talking. And some people have a high need for interaction. Or I don't know if you've seen these robotic pets, they're cats and dogs. I've seen people holding on to these and, they meow and they look at you. They make a world of difference for people. But again, it's having the right intervention for the right person at the right time, right? And so these are the kinds of discussions we were having. I was trying to explain that we shouldn't be so scared of technology to support innovation. And AI is not a villain. If used properly, it could do a lot of good. And I can show you through Secret some of the great things that we could use AI for. And robots are not villains either, if used for the right person at the right time.
Right.
So I just want to keep that. It's not going to replace, and I hope it doesn't replace healthcare professionals and friends and human connection. That's not the point, but it's really to argument for those that may not have other opportunities or options.
Right. So I guess let's all keep our minds open to a myriad of possibilities where AI or technology can intersect with human care. And how does that work with CCART? Tell us about
Yeah.
CCART, because I'm really excited about it.
So CCART, it's really, we have caregivers tell us they have a big problem. We all know this, that navigating our healthcare services and social care supports is next to impossible. Even for social workers, finding what's available is really difficult and things change all the time. So it's free, it's anonymous. We don't keep any information. We don't even ask you what town you live in. Even we only ask you if you're 18 to 64, like nothing that would show us who you are or tell us who you are. It's an online tool to really help you as a caregiver identify your own needs and connect you to local, provincial, and national resources based on the responses you have. It's a set of about 15 questions that we've distilled from like 100 questions. There's lots of things that would be helpful, important, but what's most essential for us to know and for you to know to get you to the right resource. And this is meant for all caregivers. So it's not just for older adults of dementia, it's for parents of children with Down syndrome, it's for neighbors of people with Parkinson's disease. It doesn't matter. And you can play with it. You'll get the link And regardless of where you live in Canada, based on the answers that you give, it takes you to the links and to the resources. Sorry, go ahead. I see you want to ask something.
Well, it just reminds me of, the way you explain trying to navigate is so impossible without some kind of a tool. And it reminds me of when I do um, the New York Times uh, crossword puzzle or any puzzle online, which I do to relax sometimes in the evening. And I can't get it. I just don't know what the answers are. So I click reveal. And all of a sudden, the whole thing fills in perfectly. And this reminds me of that it's almost like C-Cart. You put some information in and you click go, and it reveals everything that is essential that could be helpful for you, as you say, at this time.
Yeah. And so the beauty of it is that you can keep doing it because circumstances change,
Right.
and resources. So where AI is very helpful, so we're starting to embed AI, is you could imagine the task. We've had to put together all Canadian resources for all conditions. You can only imagine
Wow.
how much work goes into that.
Yeah.
And then we never know when the links are broken,
Mhm.
when there's changes in websites. So through AI, it can keep us up to date with those kinds of things, of maintaining it. So that's very helpful. We're also hoping to use AI so that instead of asking these 15 questions, it's more intuitive. Um, Based on certain things, it can just ask you in a way that it doesn't feel like it's a questionnaire that you're filling out.
Oh,
So these are the things. So it's not using AI for the sake of AI. It's using the ability that AI has to scan the web and tell us this is not active anymore. There's a new thing that came here. It doesn't add it to the CCAR program without us looking into it. There's still, because as you know, AI hallucinates. And so, and makes up stuff out of nowhere. So we verify it, but it's a lot of easier for us to verify a few things than to go through all of our resources constantly. And those are instances where technology is so helpful for us. Before, we could have never envisioned doing something like C-Card if we didn't have the technology behind it. In the olden days, we kept everything in folders, and even you do Google. I'll give you, you go and search an agency and a support group. Agencies don't necessarily update their websites every day. And maybe they had a support group 3 months ago, but right now in the fall, it's not happening. So it's next to impossible to keep up to date information because even agencies themselves don't necessarily know what's going on within their walls. And some of those things we can't help, but we can try to be as accurate as possible.
well, knowledge is power, and a lot of information, informally is shared within caregiver support groups, as we know. So, caregiver to caregiver, who, people who share similar circumstances and similar needs. And that's very, very valuable. And, in terms of just training and empowerment through information delivery, through training, as you know, Adriana, and many of you listening know, we have our free online course called Caregiving Essentials, which opens, I forget which date, but it will be in the chat because my colleagues will put the opening date in the chat. Um, but shortly, it's going to open shortly. Anyone can go online and learn the essentials of what you need to know. But I'm thinking something like Caregiving Essentials in combination with C-Cart. uh, is going to be a very, very powerful way that people can efficiently and effectively reach the right resources that they need that are available to them and that are we are entitled to if they're state funded. They're there to help us, but so often people don't know about them. And that's the thing that you've cracked that nut, Adriana, haven't you?
So, so I'm hearing you talk, and we're talking about innovation and technology. I'm thinking C-card, the webinars that you have,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Webinars are not for everybody, and some
Nope.
people don't have an hour. Do you know that the technology is there to get a distilled version of the webinar as a PDF? There's software for that available. So it's not an hour. You can make it into an infographic, into a short video. I mean, the technology is there to do so many things. So different caregivers can consume the information differently based on their needs and interests. We all learn differently also. So wouldn't it be great that we have access to these different modalities, and technology now could do that. So Donna, your webinars could be like you just upload it and say, give me a summary, or is there a particular section I should check of it? Like there's just so much that could happen. So in a way, we can then reach even more people, right?
Yes.
And so it's that way of thinking, of always thinking, okay, webinars, what else? What about those people that webinars, they don't have the time for an hour or whatever else, or it's too beautiful outside to participate right now. And caregivers don't have that much time. And maybe if you have an hour that's available to you and it's beautiful outside, a walk may be more indicated for you right now than a webinar, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And so it's having the ability to have different resources at your fingertips that are appropriate right now, given your particular circumstance in this moment. And I think if there's anything I want to leave people with is this idea that one size does not fit all. And through technology now, we have more than ever an ability to customize um, resources for people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're going to go to the Q&A in just a minute,
Oh,
but I think it's important that people understand how something like C-Cart and other innovations are developed in the Koschitzky Center. How what is your format for developing new ideas and new programs to trial?
so we have a panel of caregivers, patients, people in the field, an advisory board. Um, we do different, a lot of us in this space are in different caregiving groups, communities, so that we have an idea of what's happening there. So we identify what are some of the pain points. We always start, there are a lot of great ideas out there, but if these are not areas of concern to caregivers or sometimes to government or organizations, there's no point in pursuing it because we need to tackle the important things first. Then for us, we needed to build a national resource database, which took us close to a year. And I have a lot of students from the University of Toronto that do their placements at the Koschitzky with me, a lot of expertise, a lot of going through what's a good website versus not such a reputable website, what are stable websites. And at every point, we ran focus groups with caregivers to help us with language when we ask questions. We had so many questions initially. What's most important for you? Where do you feel you need help? We would design questions and three different versions, and families would say to us, I don't understand. This is too complicated. This is jargony. People voted on it, basically. And then we had kind of like voting questions off the island kind of idea. We got to keep it short. Caregivers don't have all the time in the world. A question that does not lead to a resource, we're not interested in. So some people have asked me, well, why do you do a large age group like 18 to 64? Because for a lot of the resources we lead them to, unless they're young carers, it doesn't matter. It'd be nice to know, but we don't want to overburden people and ask too many questions. And then we have a full-time systems engineer who Astra is his name. And he's like a genius in my eyes, because I have these ideas. Our team has these ideas, and we say, can you make this happen? And he makes it happen. And the beauty of, for me, of working at Baycrest really is I can interact with people. It's not just healthcare professionals anymore. And this is something that's changed over the years. Now we hire program managers that know people like me. I don't know how to manage a program. I have ideas, I can do the thing, but I can't do it in a week. Adriana, this is due in a week, and you need to do this budget by 2 weeks. We have engineers. We have families at the table. Our teams are so much bigger and richer. So all of this goes into it. Everybody's input. And of course, you ask 10 people for ideas, you get 15 different answers for the same. It's hard, because the more people you ask, the more answers you get. But it's work. It's hard. But then we can come to distilled versions of what makes sense for most people. And so it's fairly new. The website launched in November of 2024, and the app in April 2025. And this is the QR code. It's also, you can download it on your iPhone or Google Play as well. The advantage of doing it on your phone is that it doesn't keep repeat. If you do it again, it has the information. It's stored in your phone anyway, so that you don't have to give it the same information. If you do it on the website, because we keep zero information, you have to answer the questions again. So it's a tiny bit more tedious. And that's it. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you. So, can you just keep that, or I just want to bring people's attention to the website again for
Okay.
CCART. People were asking for it again. Christine, maybe from our McMaster team, maybe you could put the link in to the chat again. If you're not able to see the chat because you're not so used to Zoom, if you put your cursor toward the bottom of your screen, a line of options will appear, and chat is one of those options. And if you click on it, you'll see that lots of people have been chatting away. And I have some questions that came in with registrations and also in the Q&A, starting with the Q&A. Oh, and just by the way, here we are with the slide. There is the website for CCART. And basically, CCART is an app that you have to download from the App Store. Right, Adrian?
No, that's what we have, an app version and we have a website version.
Okay.
Both versions.
Right. And if you want to use it in an app, you download the app from the App Store. Is that right?
That's right. If not, you can go straight to the website.
Okay.
You can either use your QR code or the CCART at baycrest.org, and it takes you to a website, and you could use it on your desktop, laptop, iPad.
Great. Okay. And how long would it take someone to fill in the questionnaire?
10 minutes. And
Oh,
then it
wonderful.
links you to all the resources, and you can download it as a PDF. You can share with family members as well, or other people that you want to share the resources with, and you can save them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, fantastic. So people are asking, this is a very interesting question from Jose Ramos. Can any intervention work without people or staff?
So Can any, I mean, that's a big, it depends, I guess. Not any intervention. I mean, if your intervention is to do touch therapy, I would hate for a robot to be touching me, but maybe we can develop a robot that feels like a human. I mean, anything is possible. I just think that we're not replacing people quite so fast anymore. Can I stop sharing?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
okay. I don't think we're in a situation where we're replacing people. There's nothing like human contact. And I see it as these things as to augment some of the things, but not instead of. Um, so no. But if we were having this conversation in 10 years, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, very interesting to
Yeah.
see. Um, so here's another question from Carol. She is describing a situation where a vulnerable person is in an institutional setting and their rights to be able to use an electric wheelchair, for example, are being denied. In cases where there may be legal or ethical issues, are those type of support resources available? Are those resources going to come up on CCART if you
So,
describe a situation like that?
so secret, you don't have an opportunity to describe a specific situation, but that would be a legal question
Right.
more than anything. So it has resources for legal resources. I guess um, it you can't really put, a very specific situation like that.
Okay. But even looking at a list of legal resources that
Um,
are available,
so it links.
say in the province where you live, I mean, that's going to be helpful.
And if not, so my goal with the secret, even if you learn nothing from because it tells you if you have no time, because one of the criticisms, rightly so, is there's too many resources and people that are overwhelmed or have no time can't go through resources.
Okay.
Nothing else, you can call 211 in your province, no matter where you live, or website. And there's 24/7 help in over 157 languages. And you could say, I have this issue with the wheelchair, the person, and they'll direct you to the right resource. And this is really important because we have these resources in place, but how many people know about 211? How many people know that it's available 24/7 in 150 something plus languages? And you can call and speak to a person and just say, this is my problem, direct me. So that's the first resource that comes up in CCART. Because sometimes, honestly, that's the most helpful to get you started. Not for everybody, but at least they can get you started in the right path. The second number that comes up is if you're lucky enough to live in a province where there's a caregiving organization, it gives you their number or a link to their website, because they're most likely going to be able to help you and steer you in the right direction. And the reason we've done this is because sometimes not all of us are able to get a list of resources and figure out. It's overwhelming, quite honestly. I look at some of these Government of Canada websites. I can't figure out what I'm supposed to be doing and who I should be calling. So even if it helps people to get to 211 or to provincial caregiver organization, I feel that we've accomplished our task.
Yes.
Because we have resources. It's just how do we know which ones they are?
Yeah.
So if I could do a public campaign about 211, I would. And again, it's not a solution. It's not always perfect and there's issues, but it's a place to start, and it's better than not knowing anything.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a helpline at the Ontario Caregiver Organization as well. that is open all the time, and real humans answer that phone.
right.
So that's an innovation that is fantastic.
And innovation is that humans answer.
Humans answer. That's the innovation.
You don't have a machine.
That's right. So we only have 2 minutes left. So very quickly, can you use C-Cart for two different people in your care with different needs? You just do the survey twice?
That's right.
Okay.
And you answer one for one scenario and get your resources, and then for the second scenario.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Final question. How might policymakers and innovators reduce red tape? You and I talked about just rigid systems. How do you get personalization? How do you get innovation within rigid systems? And the buy-in of many people who hate change. We want to strengthen caregiver access to vital resources. Can we give a shout out here to the National Caregiving Strategy and CCCE? So over to you, Adriana, go for that.
Well, so in 1 minute, it's hard to say this, but what I'm going to say is that unless we have a strategy as a country, dollars don't funnel. It's not of importance. There's no accountability. So having a national caregiving strategy allows Canadians, policymakers, caregivers, organizations to at least think about it and make changes, because without money and resources, we can't do any of this work. The red tape is a whole other topic to me, in that our problem is we're so risk aversive, and being risk aversive is the opposite of what we need for innovation. And because we worry so much about risk, we keep people in wheelchairs because they may fall and break their hips, God forbid. And so it's complicated. It's complicated. And I wish we could do a whole other talk on this. But going back to having a national strategy will strengthen our abilities to have policy, to have benefits, not just tax credits, to put money, and to shine importance. Like, caregivers are the backbone of the healthcare system. We all know this. And so if that's true, then we really need to be able to support caregivers, or our system will collapse.
Yeah.
By 2030, we'll have over 21% of people will be over 65. Mm-hmm. Our statistics are changing and shifting. And if we don't plan appropriately, we're going to be in trouble.
Well, what a great place to end, but also on a very hopeful note that there is hope there through innovation and through dealing with risk aversion, through the buy-in of policymakers. We have a Canadian Caregiving Caucus in Parliament. You can read more about that at the Canadian Centre for Caregiving Excellence online. And there's a huge effort underway to support the work that you're doing, Adriana, and the work that others are doing to make sure that the fabric of society, the family, the unit of civic participation and contribution, and the work that enables all other work is supported. We are moving in this direction because we have to. So thank you ever so much for coming on this evening, Adriana, on this beautiful evening. And thank you for sharing with us your vital work in innovation for caregiver support. Thank you. Over to you, Christine.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna and Adriana. What a wonderful discussion. And thanks everyone for contributing your thoughts and resources in the chat. So I guess I will, sorry, I'm just reading everything. So thank you, everyone. I will mention, as Donna mentioned at the beginning, we normally have our Caregiving Essentials webinars during the day because evenings can get very busy, but we always like to kick off our season with an evening lecture. So our next session is on Thursday, October the 7th. 2nd, forgive me. Thursday, October the 2nd. I've put it in the chat there. That's the right date. Where Donna is going to be joined by Dr. Grant Bruno. He is going to be discussing new perspectives on care and community, learning from Indigenous traditions. Dr. Bruno is a member of the Samson Cree Nation and an assistant professor at the pediatrics at the University of Alberta. He is obviously situated in Alberta. And Dr. Bruno is sort of known for integrating Indigenous ways of knowing with Western frameworks, and he is the academic lead for Indigenous Child Health at the Women and Children's Health Research Institute. And he's going to be talking about Indigenous Caregiving Collective, which he is a founder of. So we are quite excited to have Dr. Bruno join us next month, and we hope that you will be able to join us there as well. And again, if you can't join us next month, you can register, and then you will get a link with the recording so that you can watch that. And I think my colleague Dave, who is on the back end, so yes, ChatGPT or Copilot, if you put information in, it will summarize what the webinar can do. So maybe we figure
I can talk about that real quick. Sorry.
Okay, Dave. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah,
Dave is the voice from above.
And also the Zoom link, just to ask, just for clarification, it says the 3rd, not the 2nd. So which is the correct
date? It
date?
is the 3rd. Sorry, you were right.
Okay.
We changed it. Sorry, apologies, everyone. It was going to be the 2nd, and then we changed it to the 3rd.
Okay. Just want to make sure. I didn't want to, because my graphic says different stuff. But yeah, essentially what you can do with a lot of the modern AIs out there, like ChatGPT or Google Gemini or things like that, I just tested it out to see if this was possible. If you have a recording of a webinar, like the one we're going to send out, you can provide the AI the link to the webinar. Just say, hey, I want a summary of this. Give me the major points. It'll rip the transcript, look for what it thinks is the most important thing. You know, maybe not always the greatest at identifying exactly the most important stuff, but it will give it a shot. And then you're able to, you can ask for timestamps if there's a point where, hey, I want to learn more about that, and then you can go watch it. So all these little tools out there make it a little bit, you know, these longer form things a little more manageable, a little more helpful. So try that out for yourself, and yeah, see if it's helpful.
So with that, thanks everyone. And I guess if you're having some issues, certainly email me. My information is always everywhere with caregiving, and I can try and help you out with the AI, provided I don't get overwhelmed with everything. So thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you enjoy your evening. Adriana, thank you for joining us. So much great information. And we look forward to seeing everyone again next month. Take care. Have a good night.